Добрый день, уважаемые участники вебинара. Добро пожаловать на нашу сессию, посвященную по публикациям авторам и дополнительные советы, которые вы можете получить как автор, исследователь, публикуясь в журналах Wiley. Сегодня с вами коллеги из компании 100К20 Валерия и Екатерина, и также наша коллега из Wiley Фабио ДиБелло. Фаби будет у нас основной докладчик, язык доклада будет английский. Если у вас будут какие-то трудности, вопросы, то вы в разделе Questions можете задать его, и мы с моей коллегой обязательно вам поможем во время сессии, либо ответим уже после нашего основного доклада. Окей, Фабио, please.
Окей, Катерина. Всем добрый день, спасибо, что нашли время быть с нами сегодня. Sorry for my Russian. Obviously, I tried to do my best. Welcome to the session. I'm really delighted to be presenting to you, and I would like to share some useful tips on how to be successful when publishing your research articles. So the whole idea here is to provide you with an insight on the publication process and give you an overview of useful tools and tips that hopefully will make you more successful when you publish your research findings. Please feel free to interrupt me. If you have any question, you can use your control panel. You have your dashboard, and you have the attendees tab, and by which you can actually select the icon raised hand, and you can talk. I can unmute you, or alternatively, you can write your question in the question tab. So I hope this session is interactive, and the whole idea here is to give you some experience from the field that you can use for your future publications. All right, so let's start. First of all, well, why publish? Well, it's obvious and quite explanatory, the importance for you as a researcher to publish as soon as possible your findings. First of all, for registration, in order for you to establish the ownership and the priority of your work. Imagine if you are patenting an innovation, how important it is to demonstrate that you were the first one that produced and published that idea. Recognition means acknowledgement by your peers. Career progression, you know, the majority of grant applications, promotions are based on publications. And there's also a matter of responsibility. Responsibility to society, to your institution, to taxpayer-funded research that make a contribution to scientific progress. Okay, let's start with before publication. So what are the elements that I would suggest you to consider? First of all, be self-aware. So start thinking before you start writing. Prior to putting pen to paper or fingers to keyboard, that would be more appropriate. Take some time to engage in thoughtful contemplation. Consider the purpose of your writing, the key message that you want to convey, and the desired impact on your audience. This initial reflection will help you organize your thoughts and structure your article effectively. Keep thinking when you have finished writing. Well, writing is not merely a mechanical task, but it's an ongoing process. After completing your first draft, continue to analyze and refine your work, assess the clarity, the coherence, the persuasiveness of your arguments. Revisit your introduction, and conclusion to ensure they encapsulate the essence of your article. By staying engaged in the thinking process, you can enhance the quality and impact of your writing. Okay, then determine in advance the type of article you are writing. Identifying the specific genre or type of article you're writing is crucial. It is an informative piece, an opinion article, a research paper, a tutorial, or something else. We have a lot of different types of articles. And if you're also publishing your article open access, be aware of the fact that some institutions might have agreements with publishers like Wiley for covering the APC cost, the article publication charge. This depends on the eligibility criteria and therefore also on the type of article that you write. Consider the expectations and conventions of that particular type of article to ensure your writing meets the reader's needs. Then I would also say, know your audience. Who are you writing for? Successful writing is always audience focused. Consider who will be reading your article and what they're looking for. Are you writing for professionals, academics, or the general public? What are their interests, knowledge level, and expectations? So by understanding your audience, you can adapt your writing style and vocabulary and examples to resonate with them effectively. And then finally, define the success for your publication. So before embarking on your writing journey, clarify what success means to you. Is it to educate, inspire, or entertain? Is it to generate a certain number of readers, receive positive feedback, or provoke meaningful discussions? While setting clear goals for your publication will guide your writing decisions and help you measure the impact and achievement of your work. Now, let me just share some strategies for identifying suitable journals content. Now, you may well have experienced that there are so many journals out there, so many different publishers, thousands and thousands of titles. How can you actually choose effectively and quickly what are the best journal titles to submit your work? Okay, so consider some of the elements that I have written in this slide. Where do you where do you read papers related to your research? So start by reflecting on your reading habits and the sources you regularly turn to for research papers. Identify the journals or publications where you frequently find relevant articles. What journals have you cited or intend to cite in your own research? So look at the reference section of your own research papers or manuscripts. Another thing that you could use is the journal finder software that is available on Wiley Author Services platform. It is a free of charge software. It's still in beta version, but this software can help you pinpoint the best journal title for your research. If you just upload the manuscript title here and the abstract and click on Find Matching Journals, you will retrieve the best journals in terms of aims and scope that possibly match the aims and the scope of your article. So, other considerations. Now, the aims and the scope, assess the aims and the scope of each potential journal. Ensure that your research aligns with the topics and themes covered by the journal. Consider whether your article fits within the scope of the journal's focus, and if it contributes to advancing the field of study addressed by the journal. There's got to be always an element of novelty within your publication. Review and publication timescales. Investigate the review and publication timescales for the journals you are considering. This is important to understand the average duration from submission to publication and the length of the peer review process. You may have experienced that some journals take a long time from the moment you submit your paper up to the moment in which you publish your paper. So take it into consideration when selecting the journal. Another thing which you may want to evaluate is the likelihood of acceptance. Now, consider the reputation and selectivity of the journal. Explore past publications and acceptance rates to get an idea of the journal's standards and the type of research that they typically publish. And then finally, article types. Consider the types of articles accepted by the journal. Some journals may accept original research articles, while others may focus on review articles, case studies, or opinion pieces. So ensure that the journal accommodates the format that best suits your research and the story you want to convey. You may also want to investigate the impact of the journals you are considering. Look at these citation metrics, such as the journal's impact factor, the H index, or citation count. So these metrics provide insight into the journal's influence and how frequently articles published in that journal are cited in other research. And also consider the journal's promotion strategies. Some journals actively promote articles through social media platforms, newsletters, or press releases. So it is important to assess how the journal supports the dissemination of research and its potential for increasing the visibility and reach out of your work. Accessibility and readership. Now, I talked to you about open access. Examine the accessibility of the journal. Consider the readership and the target audience of the journal. Additionally, assess whether the journal offers open access options or has policies that allow for wider access to your research. Open access publication allow access to a wider audience, and therefore it can be a formidable opportunity to enhance the visibility and impact of your work. So this is the general structure of a research article, starting from the title, the abstract, introduction, up to the author's acknowledgements. Now, one thing that I would recommend all of you before you submit your paper is to read and understand the author submission guidelines. They are very important, and your article must match the author guidelines because you don't want to run risk to be rejected because of formatting or editing mistakes. Now, there is no need to explicit how crucial writing the right title is, as it is the first impression that normally counts. That's what we normally say. We advise not to try to include all key messages of the study. Choose just one key message. The title ought to be completely understandable on first reading, simple and specific to describe the content. In general, try to be concise and use less words possible. Less is more. It should also not be too technical, and should also avoid jargon. Ultimately, don't forget to include keywords in the title. Keywords increase discoverability of your research article and also a better understanding of the scope. Now, how can you write an effective abstract? Imagine you have 20 seconds to explain your work to a scientist who is unfamiliar with it. In general, abstracts should be a short and standalone summary of your research. We recommend not to cram abstracts with details. The abstract should be standalone. So use plain language, avoid citations, and above all, avoid non-standard abbreviations. Always remember to include keywords as they play a very important role in discoverability, as I just told you a few minutes ago. And what we recommend 7, maximum 10 sentences length. Okay, a poor cover letter may lead to a wasted opportunity. The cover letter should take shape from the paper's introduction and conclusion. So when writing the cover letter, always remember to explain to the editor why your work is so significant, what is the major advance, why the journal is the right one. Don't forget to disclose conflicts of interest and possibly list all papers in press and prepare to provide copies. And you can also suggest a list of reviewers. Now, you may want to cite the main scientific publications on which your work is based, but make sure that the cited literature is up to date and really reflects the current state of knowledge in the field. Avoid excessive sub-citations. More citations don't necessarily make your work better or higher quality. Be sure that you cite all papers, and also make sure that you have a global coverage. So don't cite just, possibly don't cite just papers written in Russia on the Russian Federation. The majority of journals are international, they're global, so try to cover also articles that have been published in other areas of the world. And the last advice I will give you is do not cherry pick papers that support your viewpoint only. Acknowledging contrasting hypotheses is a sign of professionalism and shows your unbiased attitude. Now, I talked to you about the importance of search engine optimization. So the keywords that you put in the title, in the abstract, and in the headings and the body text. They are very important because researchers actually search using keywords in the subject-specific databases or discovery tools. They use Google Scholar, they use Web of Science. So it is important that you select the most standard and most commonly used keywords for your research in order for your research to be discoverable. As you can see here, nearly 50% of the landings to the Wiley Online Library, which is our platform that Katarina showed you yesterday, are coming from external websites. Okay, so I know you're Russian and English is probably not your primary language. Now, what type of advice I can give you to make sure that your language is good enough to be accepted for publication? Well, carry out at least one spell check, ask a colleague in your field to proofread your manuscript, You can ask a native or fluent English speaker to proofread your manuscript, be consistent. I will show you later on that you can also use Wiley editing services. That is our platform that provides high quality professional editing services that will help you achieve the task of error-free and high quality English level. I will also talk to you briefly about the new artificial intelligence tools that authors can freely use, and we're probably gonna talk about some limitations in the usage of these tools at the end, nearly at the end of the presentation. Additional consideration, bear in mind that most journals use plagiarism checking tools, such as Authenticate, and so these kind of tools pick up text matches. So this means that phrases and the odd sentences can be acceptable, but entire paragraphs are a problem. Also, reusing text from your previously published paper is a problem. So I'm going to be showing you what is unethical behavior, but this is one example of unethical behavior, and this is normally not accepted by the majority of the publishers. Okay, Katerina, let me know if there is any question or...
Yes, as for now, no questions, Fabio.
Excellent. So, how to submit your article and what is the peer review process? So, as I mentioned before, I strongly advise you to click on the Contribute tab within the journal when you are at the journal page in Wiley Online Library and check the author guidelines. That will provide you with guidance on how to format your text, your paper, the length, the figures, the tables, the title page, the cover letter, the open research requirements, everything that you need to abide by in order for your work to be accepted for publication. Another thing that I would strongly recommend you to do, if you haven't done so already, is to register with your Orchid ID. Now, you can basically go to the Orchid website and you can freely register your unique identifier in order to make sure that you get the credits for each article that you publish under your name. Okay, now the peer review process. Now, this is the critical assessment of manuscripts submitted to journals by experts who are not part of the editorial staff. Now, what is their job? Their job is to filter out bad or uninteresting work, make sure the research findings are reported and interpreted correctly and convincingly, and ultimately improve the quality of publication. One thing that I'd like to point out is that the referee's activity cannot detect fabrication, prevent duplicate publication, or select the most important papers, nonetheless ensure quality of the article or ensure the article is right for the journal. So it is very important for you to be aware of the limitations of the peer review process, okay? So I thought it would be useful for you to have a workflow of the entire peer review process, from the moment you submit your paper up to the moment in which you actually get your work to be published in the journal. So you can see the process can be broadly summarized into 10 steps. Now, first step, the paper is submitted. So what happens? The corresponding author submit the paper, and this is usually via an online system such as Scholar One manuscripts. The second step is editorial office assessment. The journal checks the paper's compositions and arrangement against the journal's author guidelines to make sure it includes the required sections and stylizations. That's why it is very important that you understand and follow the author guidelines. The quality of the paper is not assessed at this time. Now, the second step is the appraisal by the editor-in-chief. The editor-in-chief checks that the paper is appropriate for the journal and is sufficiently original and interesting. Some journals have also associate editors who handle the peer review. If they do, they would be assigned at this specific stage. Then what happens is the invitation to reviewers. So invitations sent to individuals the editor believes would be appropriate reviewers. Potential reviewers consider the invitation against their own expertise, conflicts of interest, and obviously availability. As responses are received, further invitations are issued, if necessary, until the required number of acceptances is obtained. Commonly, this is actually 2. Okay, so minimum of 2 reviewers, but there is some variations between journals. Okay, then the review is conducted. So the reviewer sets time aside to read the paper several times. The first read is used to form an initial impression of the work. If major problems are found at this stage, the reviewer may feel comfortable rejecting the paper without further work. Otherwise, they will read the paper several more times, taking notes as to build a detailed point-by-point review. The review is then submitted to the journal with the recommendation to accept or reject it, or else with the request for revision, usually flagged as either major or minor revision, before it is reconsidered. Now, journal evaluates the reviews. The handling editor considers all the returned reviews before making an overall decision. If the reviews differ widely, the editor may invite an additional reviewer as to get an extra opinion before making a final decision. If accepted, the paper is sent back to production. If the article is rejected or sent back for either major or minor revision, the handling editor should include constructive comments from the reviewers to help the author improve the article. Now, if the paper is sent back for revision, the reviewers should expect to receive a new version, unless they have opted out of further participation. Okay, so let's see what happens when an article gets sent back for revision. You may first consider all referees' comments, bearing in mind that not all changes need to be made. However, you need to provide strong, convincing arguments for changes that you do not intend to make. So, prepare a revision, revise the whole manuscript, and highlight all changes. I think you should also prepare a point-by-point response to all referee criticism and clarify what changes you have made and what changes you did not make and why. So response goes back to the referees, and remember that you need to convince both referees and the editor. Okay, now This slide is just for you to remember that it is absolutely vital that you check the proofs. Don't assume everything is fine. Articles rarely go straight into an issue. And also, be mindful of turnaround times. Now, your article has been accepted. You should congratulate yourself, of course, for the achievement. What can you do to promote the dissemination of your research article? Now, let me share some of the promotional toolkits that we think are useful for authors to maximize exposure of their research articles. Now, we have identified 9 toolkits. What I would suggest you to do is go to wileyauthors.com/maximize, and you will find an awful lot of useful information that can help you put these toolkits into practice. I mentioned to you what is unethical. You remember I talked to you about plagiarism, self-plagiarism, text recycling. I thought it would be useful for you to view what are the 6 elements that are deemed as unethical behavior by the EU CHEMS guidelines. As you can see, fraud, duplicate submission, duplicate publication, inadequate citing, and then, of course, plagiarism and self-plagiarism. And the research community are pretty good at spotting it. The peer reviewers are very good at it. The members of your community, there are the software, the specialist software like Authenticate, and obviously the data analysis and the analysts. So let me just share some golden rules that you may want to apply. First of all, articles should always be submitted to one journal at a time. And the same article should not be published in more than one place. Several articles based on the same research must each make a unique contribution. And as I told you before, it is very important that you acknowledge all the people that have contributed to your work. It is unethical not to mention someone who have contributed. So it is very important that when you publish your manuscript, you carry out a complete analysis of the literature, search all databases, screen for all the literature that has been produced so far in order to avoid missing out on citing a work that has already been published in literature and that could contribute to your research, to your publication. Okay, so now let's come to a very hot topic. I decided to talk about generative AI, more specifically LLM, large language models, because this is something that is spreading at high speed. A lot of things are happening in the world. I do not know how things are actually going in Russia. Actually, I would appreciate if you could write it in the question panel. But let me just do some considerations on the use of ChatGPT. As you know, probably know, ChatGPT was launched on November 30th and gained attention for its detailed and articulate responses spanning all domains, I would say all domains of knowledge. Now, by January 2023, it had become the fastest growing consumer software application in the history of mankind. basically, you all know that OpenAI reached 100 million users in a week. Okay. Although the core function of a chatbot is to mimic a human conversation, it's now acknowledged that ChatGPT can write and debug computer programs, write business speeches, compose music, write poetry and song lyrics, play games, and much more. But OpenAI, which is the producer of ChatGPT, acknowledges the fact that sometimes ChatGPT writes plausible sounding, but sometimes incorrect or hallucinations, so nonsensical answers. ChatGPT has been accused of engaging in discriminatory behaviors, sometimes make up fake journals articles or health consortiums to support its claims. It is important that you all are aware of the limitations and the risks that you incur while using ChatGPT for writing your article. Now, over 20,000 signatories, including Joshua Bengio, Elon Musk, the Apple co-founder, signed an open letter calling for an immediate pause of giant AI experiments like ChatGPT, citing profound risks to society and humanity. I guess you all know that. But what is the position of Wiley with regard to the use of generative AI? Okay, first of all, let me announce to all of you that Wiley will be launching a manuscript language checker service in the coming months. And this intelligent machine learning tool will scan an author's paper and provide an assessment of all aspects of its language and grammar. It will be able to provide authors with suggestion of how submission ready their paper is, and also recommendations for Wiley editing services paid for language editing that can help improve their manuscript. But with regard to the use of ChatGPT, what is the position? Well, any use of any AI-generated content in the manuscript, such as ChatGPT, must be cited in the manuscript, and its use needs to be clearly described. This means also if you have just used ChatGPT to improve the text. So we're not asking you to declare if you have just used ChatGPT to create a chapter, but you also must cite it. You have to declare and that you have used it just to improve the grammar, the spelling, and check the syntax or improve the language. Okay. So finally, users can use ChatGPT while they write their manuscript. They must be transparently and carefully disclosed in the manuscript. It must be cited if used in any way, including the sections where those tools were used. Something that you are not allowed to do is that you list ChatGPT as an author. Okay, so ChatGPT cannot be held accountable as an author for the time being, obviously. ChatGPT cannot be trusted to deliver accurate and reliable content, and therefore replace human input and labor. This is our current position on the use, and we also have defined the Wiley policy on the use of generative AI. What you can do here is check the link here. You can go on authorservices.com and you can actually access the ethics guidelines index. and you'll be able to find our official document that explains the limitations in the use of ChatGPT and large language models. Okay, so I'm running out of time. I'd like to wrap up by indicating some of the tools that you can use that can help you and support you throughout the entire publication process. Wiley Auto Service is free of charge, and you can find the journal finder software. You remember the one that I showed you before? So the journal software, the journal finder software is the software whereby you can upload the title and the abstract of your manuscript, and you can basically ask the system to pull out the best journal title that match the aim and the scope of your article. You will also find very useful information regarding open access, article publication charges, open data, open research, and also author compliance tools. The other service that we offer is Wiley Editing Service Platform, and this is for fee platform. This is the landing page, and you will see here services and pricing. So there is a price, there is a fee to use these services, and these are the services that we provide in the domain of article preparation services. You see here English language editing, academic translation, illustration, figure formatting, graphical abstract design, manuscript formatting. And there is a price that depends on the size of your manuscript and also on the delivery time that you ask to return your document. And we also offer article promotional services like, video creation that help you engage and increase the visibility of your work, conference poster creation, cover image design, infographic, research, news stories. All of these elements will definitely help you gain more visibility and more impact in the research community. Finally, I would invite you to visit our Customer Success Hub, where we host quite a good number of training videos and training guides. And you can see here the link to the Customer Success Hub and also the link that allows you to register for free for our upcoming and on-demand webinars. And obviously, you can feel free to contact me should you have any issue or any question. I'd be more than happy to get back to you and follow up. So, Caterina, over to you. I know I see some questions coming in from the audience, from Diana.
Yeah, regarding plagiarism. So they were asking some services that's by international practice. So I mentioned one of them. Maybe you have more information.
Yeah, we are using Authenticate. I'm not an expert of plagiarism software, but I know that there are many out there, and it's becoming increasingly difficult to recycle text. You're spotted immediately. Okay, Maria, thank you so much. I know I appreciate that you speak Italian. I tried to do my best to speak Russian, but thank you so much. We will have we normally, we try to update our webinars, including novelties that are taking the world by storm. So I, Caterina, and Valeria are constantly updating our training sessions, trying to incorporate the novelties coming from artificial intelligence. So we know that artificial intelligence is an incredible opportunity that can help a lot of researchers and make their work more effective, more efficient. So we are doing our best to, provide an insight on artificial intelligence that users can use.
Mm-hmm.
Great.
Thank you so much, Fabio.
Well, thanks to you. I can see no further questions coming in, and no one is pushing on the hands raised icon.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, see the same. I think that, уважаемые участники вебинара, если у вас будут вопросы, пожалуйста, вы можете обращаться к нашему коллегу. Фабио, почта его указана на слайде. Также эта информация будет вам отправлена после вебинара с копией той презентации, которую мы сегодня прослушали с вами. И также моя коллега Валерия продублировала адрес нашей компании, куда вы можете тоже обращаться по любым вопросам, связанным с издательством Wiley. Мы вам желаем прекрасного вечера. Большое спасибо, что нашли время принять участие. Fabio, thank you so much for supporting.
Fabio, thank you.
I'll see you soon.
See you soon. Goodbye. Всем хорошего вечера.
Всем спасибо. До свидания.
До свидания.
Goodbye, Fabio.
Bye-bye. Bye for now.
Bye-bye.